This small gesture that Apple unveiled with the Apple Watch Series 9 is maybe one of the most interesting things that came out of the event.
It seems kind of pointless and it seems kind of silly, but the way we interact with computers is changing. And Apple is really well positioned to have huge impact on how we're going to be interacting with computers in the future.
It's one of a long series of interactions that Apple's introduced over the years to get us used to a future with computing in AR. So let's take a look at those interactions and find out how Apple's slowly been training us all to a future with spatial computing and their eventual Apple Vision Pro.
The reason we think it's interesting that Apple is introducing this double tap in the Apple Watch is because you can also find the same double tap in the official Apple Vision Pro documentation.
Our theory is that Apple has been training us to use AR computers since 2014.
Yeah, maybe even earlier. Who knows?
Maybe even earlier. But why do we say this? Like, what are the series of devices and software updates and new interactions that they're doing that makes us believe that we've slowly been part of an ongoing experiment, I would say, and an ongoing kind of foresight game of what the future of computers is going to look like.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to look at kind of the entire ecosystem of Apple devices. I mean, that's why they're kind of positioned to have such an impact in this field in general, is because Apple does have an ecosystem and all of the devices communicate with each other. And that really lends itself to some really massive opportunities.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
we started in 2014 with Hey Siri.
Yeah.
By getting us used to saying, Hey Siri, and then a command, we are moving away from screens and we're talking to our machines, which will be necessary with AR goggles. I mean, to keep your hand up like this all day is just exhausting.
No, totally.
Next, we have the Apple Watch.
You know, the Apple Watch, which, I mean, as of, I think, 2017, surpassed the Fitbit as the most worn wearable technology, alongside the AirPods, which we'll get to next. But it's crazy. I mean, you think that I think because it's like very multi-purpose device, that's why it surpassed Fitbit. And, you know, people sleep with this thing. It has all their health data. Again, moving into this realm where technology is kind of ubiquitous. It's part of your body. It's not something you're thinking of. Just like the auditory cues for Siri, now you have this thing on your wrist that's connecting you to, you know, the Apple ecosystem.
And I think a deeper point that maybe is something we have to make clear is the definition of augmented reality is very important. Like what it means to each person might differ slightly. For example, is the Apple Watch an AR device? Well, it depends. If when you're running, you're aware of your heartbeat in a numerical way.
Yeah.
That's an augmented version of your bodily understanding, a very real flesh and bones thing.
Totally.
And that's, you know, that is augmented reality.
Yeah.
You're augmenting the reality of your inner sensory experience, right?
Totally. I mean, even you mentioned Tim Cook earlier. Basically, one of our theories is that the AirPods, which is, I think, now
the next device, in 2016,
are augmented reality, even though Tim Cook disagrees.
Yeah, exactly. There was an article in 2017 where Tim Cook basically answers the reporter by saying, no, the AirPods aren't part of AR. But, you know, maybe at first they weren't actually. Yeah. Honestly, the first version of the AirPods was quite benign.
Yeah.
Just like put these wireless things in your ears. And
did they even have touch capabilities?
They did, but everything was much more basic.
Okay.
But then I think people just wore them all the time. And it became almost like these things are like kind of in your head all the time now. And, you know, we see people like walking and talking with them. Then you have the tapping to summon Siri.
Yeah.
So now you're talking and there isn't even a screen anywhere.
So at this stage, you have something attached to your wrist, monitoring your health data all the time, kind of measuring where you're moving. Yeah. You have something now listening to you. So making sure that from like an auditory perspective, you can kind of get more done. So you're moving away from these interfaces to make a call, to kind of track whatever. You're not kind of putting a phone in your pocket and going for a run.
Exactly. Next, in 2017, we get the AR kit.
Oh, yeah.
A software development kit to make it so that developers can start building augmented reality apps on iPhones and iPads. And I think around the same time, we get like LiDAR sensors.
Totally.
And the iPad Pro and then the iPhone Pro.
Which literally, I mean, they serve no major function in the actual phone. Like there's no reason to have them there. I mean, there was a few things like the IKEA app. You could kind of use that to like position a couch or whatever.
Yeah, those AR apps did not take off.
They did not take off. But, you know, Apple kind of is hedging its bets in a way, saying like, this is something that is coming. And the reason all this is sort of kind of top of mind is because, you know, in the most recent Apple event, they showed kind of how the culmination of these things, you know, you have the new iPhone that can take 3D images.
Yep.
So now it's okay. You have this LiDAR, which can see how far from the sensor is an object going to be. You have the 3D imaging where you can actually just like 3D scan, you know, a box and then put that into virtual reality now so that you can see things in that way.
And I mean, like you know, we're talking about the AR kit and part of Apple's training methodology in general. One thing that Apple does really well, AR or not, is training developers.
Interesting.
It's actually like a killer feature of Apple's ecosystem. The iPhone, iOS, Apple Watch, the Watch OS is basically iOS Mini. iOS itself was Mac OS Mini. When the iPhone first came out, it was the exact same language.
Oh, wow.
That's done on purpose so that the devs don't have to relearn anything major. Vision OS is iOS major.
Okay. Wow.
It's like there's a constant sort of like, okay, cool. Like we're just kind of practicing, you know, same dev skills you have here, use them there, just minify your app.
Totally.
Now maxify your app.
Yeah.
Now put it on tablet. Now put it on desktop.
Yeah.
You know, here's the like home kit for the Apple HomePod, which in a way is part of, you know, putting voice in the house.
Totally.
Same thing.
That's
built
true.
on all the same style of software development. So, you know, training the users on one hand with introducing, okay, tap on your ear, monitor this. And most recently with the Watch Series 9, you do that and it answers the phone.
Totally.
A gesture that, you know, we talked about in the opening. But there's a few others very small things that are interesting. Like the AirPods have something called spatial audio.
Oh, yeah.
You know, basically like you can listen to a song in 3D. I don't know. I don't think there's much content out there.
You know,
like
when
that.
I've been listening to music, I'm like, man, I really wish that this song was 3D right now. But I mean, a more interesting application is the ability to actually kind of tune out certain annoying sounds, like construction. Maybe there's like the beeping of cars would be bad to tune out, probably.
You're crossing the street. Someone's like honking.
No. If you live like outside of a noisy street, the beeping of cars could be tuned out.
Sure. And that feature is brand new.
Okay.
That's 2022. That's adaptive audio.
Yeah.
Brand new.
And I think to us, really, what it means to be like, you know, AR has a traditional definition, right? And I think obviously the most AR forward thing is the Vision Pro, which is really an actual AR tool. But the way we look at it is like, how is Apple intentionally? It's not reacting. It's taking steps, kind of tool by tool, device by device, and moving in a direction, kind of intentionally from what we've seen towards kind of having less devices in front of us, having no computers, maybe no phones. You know, reducing the size of the devices, having the devices constantly be worn. They're clearly moving towards kind of a spatial computing future.
Right, which is what they're calling AR, actually. If you think about the Vision Pro, it's not the AR goggles, it's a spatial computing platform. And I think, you know, this has pros and cons, right? Start with the cons so that we leave on a positive note. Obviously, it's not ideal that like a monolithic company will continue to dictate all these interactions because it's getting very expensive to break into this game. But on the flip side, you know, it means that we have time to learn and adapt as designers and as users, right? To like understand what's coming, to understand how we can make sure these apps are designed well for the people that need them in the context they're gonna use them in. And I think that's kind of the main thing for me, at least, is like by observing this timeline and paying attention to each software update, each interesting kind of odd thing that they just, why is that in there? You know, what is that feature really? And realizing that they're part of a larger story is somehow empowering, I guess, in that I'm like, okay, I can be prepared for this big change.
Totally. Nice.
Any feelings you have?
Yeah, I think Apple is putting forward some very good options for future gestures with the Vision Pro, with the Apple Watch. And I think that also our role as designers is to go out there and try those things and react to them. You know what I mean? Like, does this feel nice? You know, does kind of interacting with interfaces in this way feel meaningful? And if not, you know, respond to it. Our job is to challenge these things and accept them when they work, and kind of push back against them if we feel that there's a better way to do things. So we'd love to hear what you guys think about this kind of new AR feature that we're working towards, or that we're moving towards, you know, whether we like it or not, probably. So leave a comment below if you have anything to say about the future of AR, and yeah, we'll talk soon.
Cheers.
The future of interaction design in general is going to be interactive. Well, that's a stupid thing to say.